Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Tabletop Game Talk, a show where we talk about tabletop games of all types. I'm one of your hosts, Josh.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Kitty.
Today we'll be talking about couples games. Valentine's Day is just around the corner. What games do we and some of our listeners think are great games for couples to play together? But first, let's go off topic, starting with some news, announcements and feedback.
Thanks, Josh. First, if you're new to the show, welcome. If you've been listening before, welcome back. First, we want to thank our friend of the show, patron Emil Jiljam. I believe I'm saying that right now. Thank you, Emil. Also, thanks to our newest patrons and supporters, Trevor Olson and Rudy Liu. If you're interested in supporting us on Patreon, come visit our webpage at tabletopgametalk.com/Patreon. They get free entries into all of our contests. They get extra entries. They auto entry. And something I'm going to start very soon is I'm going to post on Patreon the file before it goes out on iTunes. There's no promises that that's going to actually happen like any particular given day. So today's Monday. The best I could do is get it like 3 or 4 hours earlier than normal. But normally we record on Sunday, and sometimes I get it up on Sunday night. So if I do, you'll get it early on Patreon.
Oh, I'm just blown away that Emil, Trevor and Rudy patroning us. That's so cool.
It's very exciting.
I didn't expect any, honestly, but crazy.
Yeah, I mentioned it to Josh and Kitty, and they're like, nobody's gonna do that.
Yeah.
So Emil's the trendsetter. Now everyone's gonna be cool like Emil.
Yeah,
and now Trevor and Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does mean a lot to us. Just lets us know that people think what we do is worth something, and we'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Let's see, Valentine's Day contest winner is over. Now I'm going to post it all on social media as well. So we will be drawing the winner at the end of this off-topic segment.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, what?
Oh my god, how did I not know that? Anyway.
Josh, you should listen to our show.
I should. Just in one ear, out the other. Forgotten it all by the end of recording.
It's all good. Let's see, I just got back from Winter Fantasy this weekend as well. That was a lot of fun. I spent probably 3 days playing Dungeons & Dragons. I played Shadows of the Demon Lord, played Living Arcanas, which is kind of a Dungeons & Dragons different setting. So yeah, I've been geeking things out and tweeting things and writing stuff, so now I'm like inspired to post stuff.
Any highlight anecdotes you can reel off in a nutshell from your time there?
None that are super positive. Like the most memorable moment, I had a really, really bad DM for one of my games.
Oh no.
And I'm just like, oh, this is what a bad DM is like. I get it. All right.
Right.
So, but I won't mention the game or how it came about. You learn from everything, so I was learning from that.
Right.
So everyone at the table was very like understanding though. They're like, okay, it seems like you've been up for like 3 days straight, so maybe you're not fully energetic and into this yet, which happens.
Okay.
Weight update. I'm 197.8. That's down 1.7 more pounds from last week.
Nice.
That's 17.2 pounds overall since January 1st.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, Josh, you had a good week too, though.
I did, yeah, because I was holding last week, but then this week, 177.6, 2.3 pounds down, which is 5.7 overall, which is, pretty good. Nice and steady.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
I weigh the same.
I can actually see it in Chris's face a bit. Like, since you started versus now, I can see it a bit.
Gaunt,
Yeah.
hollow, shadow.
Yep.
The man used to be.
And our last announcement, and I'm not even sure if we should announce this, but I'm going to. Actually, not two, really. We are recording this potentially to put it up on YouTube. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, this is our very first time. So if we're awkwardly looking over at the camera from time to time, that's why. Because you're like, why is there a camera over there? If you're listening to the podcast and you're like, wait a minute, you have this on YouTube? Maybe.
Bar any technical
difficulties.
Yeah.
I think the audio is working. I think the recording's going to last for the full hour. I think all of this stuff is going to work as long as I don't
put down the button. So
putting that away just in case. If everything works out great, it will be on YouTube, and you can see that our logo is exactly us. Like it's the same thing. We're like cartoon
We're really
characters.
here.
Yeah. And then the other announcement is next week is our first interview that we've ever done. Mm-hmm. So we will be interviewing David Serlin from Serlin Games and talking all about Codex.
Super exciting.
Yay.
So cool.
Yep. So Peek Behind the Veil, we've already recorded the interview.
Yeah.
But
In the can.
In the can.
It was good.
Yes.
You're definitely going to want to
Look
hear
forward
it.
to it.
Yeah.
But it will be in our on-topic section. Our off-topic will still be live, and we won't be recording that till next week.
Mhm.
And then we'll put the interview in, and then we'll probably have some finish-up stuff too, because we are a weekly podcast. We record every week. We do record interviews earlier just so I can make sure there's no technical glitches.
And just in case anyone doesn't know, like Codex is like a really big deal right now.
Oh,
like
yeah.
we've all played it and loved it, and I think it was Tom Vassal's. He exchanged out Magic for this game. It
Yep.
overtook Magic, and it was like number 22 game of all time for his, number 3 game of 2016. Like, so this will be a good one to get listened to.
It's a big deal. And now, don't get me wrong, if you're huge into Magic and you've spent thousands of dollars in Magic, or you have thousands of cards, you're not going to throw away all those cards for it.
Yeah.
But if you like casual Magic, you may say, I don't need Magic anymore. Codex solves this casual niche, and it still allows me all this flexibility in there.
Yeah.
So we will go talk about Codex a lot next week. So let's jump right into here.
Feedback. So Chris put out a challenge last week, and it worked. We have 7 new iTunes reviews.
What? 7?
Thank you
Oh my
to
God.
Halo King 2525, Tabletop Dad, Ryan is the Spy, Tev
2115.
2115. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I should have read the notes ahead of time.
These are all handles, so they're tricky.
Yeah. Om Sherpa, I'm gonna go with.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Rudy San and Samir Biswas.
Yep. So thank you all. They're great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone
thanks.
says the same thing. You guys are so awesome. We want to be just like you. Like,
Kitty's the best.
yeah.
I feel like you're kind of adding extra stuff.
Oh,
in
I
there,
might be
Chris.
paraphrasing. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they are really, really nice
Oh, okay.
reviews.
I
And
need to go and read these.
yes.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. No, you guys came out and I just wanted 1. You guys gave us 7, and that was
7.
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So this week, I really just want 1. So Samir did mention that he tried to, not Samir, it was Emil mentioned that he was trying to leave an iTunes review, and he doesn't use a Mac, and he couldn't find it, so he's going to try again later. We'll see.
So
No
we'll
pressure.
skip that
No
part
pressure.
Because
Oh, did I just jump ahead?
You did.
You can go ahead. Keep going.
From Facebook. Emil says, thanks for the thanks in the last episode. Great stuff as usual. Not really important. Oh, pronunciation of his name. We fixed it.
Yep.
We hope.
I'll now spell it Jill. Emil, I know your name is not started with a J, but for us.
In our show notes. It does. All right. Do you guys have any experience with miniature warring, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Like Warhammer. In that case, I think it would make a great episode. I don't, but I know my brother does. Maybe we'll have Jack as a special guest star.
I think I played
perhaps?
Warhammer once in my life when I was about 4.
So Warhammer, if you haven't played, is this? Well, there's 2 versions. There's actually a fantasy Warhammer, and then there's a 40K version, which is the more futuristic stuff. You paint all your armies, and it's very tactical and measuring things. But that's kind of like probably the most popular and most well-known one. There are tons and tons of miniature games, though. In high school, I used to love to play BattleTech. And that would be create your own mechs, and you'd have like your team of mechs, and you'd be fighting each other. That was most of my tabletop stuff. But if you look at my table, down here is kind of a X-wing, the diatribe? Is that
Diorama.
diorama? There you go.
That's the word.
That's a better word. This is essentially a miniatures game as well. And you take your fleet. Each thing has points, and you measure things around and attack and kill things. Hero Clicks are miniature games and stuff like that. There's a ton of them out there. I need to get you guys to play a few of them. I actually do own a couple, but I haven't. Those ones are really, really heavy.
They are, yeah.
So they're the ones where it's like, okay, we're going to get down and build armies and attack each other. So, continue.
So noted. All right. I'm not sure if you've talked about it before, but if you haven't tried Betrayal at the House on the Hill, I think that would make a great live stream episode. We have played it, but you're right, it would make a great
I
live
haven't
stream
played
episode.
that one.
You haven't?
They have an
Oh,
expansion
we
out
have.
now. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
Good to know. Yeah. So noted.
Forward
Added
to
to our
Yeah.
list. All right. Praise. I just gotta say how amazing it is that you guys can produce such a high quality podcast with such little editing of the episodes. There should be editing. I just messed that up. Bravo. I did make an effort to try to review you, but because Apple's the worst, paraphrasing there. It was hard. Yeah. So, do we want to take this moment to go over our easy 8-step process?
If you're using a Mac, just go to tabletopgametalk.com/review, then click on review, then click on search, search for Tabletop Game Talk, click into the thing, click on review, click on write a review. It's really simple. No, it's not.
Totally.
So thank you so much for those 7 reviews, because we know how hard it is to get
really,
them.
Yeah. So I feel like today's episode is a little rougher because I keep thinking about the video right now.
It's going to be more entertaining that way, I think.
Yeah. So.
But anyway, we have a message from Andrew Fayash. He says, my sister and her husband were asking me a while back now for some recommendations of good 2-player board games and card games. I ended up giving them a copy of Gloom, but I've mentioned the game before to this show. It's definitely up there on my list, especially for anyone who appreciates dark humour. Everyone keeps talking about Gloom, and reference to dark humour, that's cool.
Yeah, I think I own it. If I
that.
don't, I should pick it up because every single time I want to get his name.
Well, the person who's just messaged
the person who made Gloom.
Oh, I've no idea.
I'll remember. Keep reading.
Okay. But yeah, so I didn't have much else to recommend them, as I realised when it comes to board and card games, the really good ones that I know are best played in groups of 4+. I do want to check out the Rivals of 4 Catan, however. I've heard good things there. Also, I did create my own little 2-player simultaneous turn game a couple of months ago. Nothing too fancy, but I'm keeping it in my theoretical back pocket for some time down the road. Ooh, that's cool.
Yes.
I'm anxiously awaiting this episode, as it'd be nice to hear a few recommendations. I'll definitely link my sister to listen to this episode. Hi, Tiff.
Hi, Tiff.
Hey, Tiff.
Keith Baker. That's the name I could not remember.
There you go.
So, Keith Baker, he created Gloom, and he's like, when you play Gloom, you have to create the story. You have to tell the story of what's happening.
Oh.
You don't have to. It can be a very mechanical game, but he's like, it's most interesting when you actually put a story around it. So it's, like I say, it's a game where you're trying, everyone that you have in your family is going to die.
Right.
And it's just the story around how that happens.
That sounds like I could get behind that game. It sounds funny.
It could be pretty fun.
In a black humor kind of way.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of Oregon Trail.
Yeah. So Andrew continues correcting me on my D&D faux pas last time. I think I said David Anderson, and it's actually Dave Arneson, Arneson.
Oh man, Chris.
I may not even be pronouncing that right. Yeah, but he said he had the pleasure of having him as a professor in college just a few months before he passed away. Side note, to answer your question, I had this question. Andrew, what did you go to college for? I received a degree in video game development. He's a great guy, had countless amazing stories regarding all things games. I also got a signed copy of D&D 4th Edition Player's Handbook, which had just come out, and a lucky die that Dave himself gave out to students who passed his class. He also mentions a show called Harmon's Quest, hosted by Dan Harmon, and his celebrity friends. They do a YouTube live play, apparently. The first episode's free, and then it's like YouTube TV. They can see the rest of it.
Yeah, I had a brief look at it, actually, when I saw his suggestion. I was like, oh, what's this about? It looks kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. And then he asked you a question, Kitty. You mentioned some videos on the last episode I didn't quite catch, so we're going to say it slow and clear.
Speaking of Dan Harmon, the creator of Community, I believe.
Yep.
These are 2 episodes of Community. The first one is called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It is season 2, episode 14. It is available on Hulu Plus, possibly just on Hulu.
Yeah, it's probably on
yeah. I'm not sure if they have all the seasons up on just regular Hulu, but definitely if you have Hulu Plus, go check out Community. In general, and then these episodes in specific, season 2, episode 14, and then there's advanced Dungeons and Dragons is somewhere in season 5.
Yeah, the first one was just amazing.
The first
one,
one,
you showed me the first couple of minutes,
yeah.
And it just looked ingenious.
Yeah, I accidentally just started watching it. It's like, okay.
The actual technical play of D&D is not great, but the feel is very good.
Yeah, you get all the feel of it.
The new group, especially dynamics, and it's good. Highly recommend. All right, on to our quick question of the day. Dave Wynn asks, after listening to Chris talk about the Pathfinder Adventure card game on his tablet, I began wondering what you guys thought about digital card games like Hearthstone, and Dream Quest. These are card games, but they can only really exist because of the digital aspect of it. I also happen to love both of these games because of their convenience.
So I'm a huge fan of digital card games, unless the game is, and this is, unless it's Japanese based. Because the way those card games work is you can't possibly collect them all,
Right.
and then you need to get all these cards, and you sell the cards, and you upgrade the cards, and there's a lot of things you can only do with digital cards there, but it does not feel like a card game to me. It just feels like get the card with the biggest number on it, because you're just trying to get more stars and more levels, and this is obviously better than that. Where games like Hearthstone, it's like, yes, there are rare cards, but even the common cards you'd still want to use for a lot of things. Pathfinder card game, yes. There's also one called Mavenfall, which I really wish the company would have kept playing with it, because I loved Mavenfall. It's like you choose 5 heroes and you get a 10-card deck for each hero, and you can build that 10-card deck out of the 20-some cards that hero has. And when you play the game, you can draw from any of their decks that forms your hand. So then as you play that, the Mavens fight each other, and one of my favorite games of all time. It's out there. If you haven't played it, I recommend go play it, because it's fun and interesting to play. They didn't do too much after that, though. Do you guys play?
Well, I was going to mention, this is a little bit shoehorny, but the thing is, so if you hadn't listened to it, we had an episode where we did our top 5, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right? And my top 1 was Warlight, which is actually is like a Risk type game online. And towards the end of that episode, I listened to it back the other day, and towards the end of it, everyone was like, well, if I knew I could do video games, then... And I just got like absolute flack from all of you, and I didn't get a chance to defend myself. But this is exactly the same kind of thing, It plays exactly like a board game would play. Like, the interface is extremely flat. There's none of that juicy animations that you get from... a proper video game. There's no like instant movement. It plays exactly like a board game, but on a video game screen. And you guys were like, oh no, that doesn't count, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's totally a board game on this computer screen.
Fog of War thing going on. How can you do that on a...
Battleship's the same thing.
Okay.
You can't tell. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You sunk my battleship.
It feels very much like Risk. And how dare you all? We shouldn't even be talking about this. It's not even a board game. These silly digital card games. It's not part of our podcast.
No, I love digital card games. It is now part of our podcast. I'm making it as such.
Brilliant.
I'm calling it Tabletop Game Talk plus other things that I like on an iPad.
Brilliant. And Warlight's in. Yes.
Fine. Well, grandfather did. But yeah, anything that takes away the fiddly bits and allows you to set up. We've talked about board games. We had an entire tablets and phone game. The fact that it speeds up the setup and teardown and all of that stuff, I'm pro that. Now, specifically, like Hearthstone doesn't have a board game equivalent. Mavenfall doesn't have one. There's another one, Soulforge, which I kickstarted. It doesn't have an equivalent. Soulforge is interesting because the cards level up. So you use it the first time, it's level 1. It goes in your discard pile, but it becomes level 2 in your discard pile. So the next time you see it, it's level 3, and the next time you see it is level 1, 2, and 3. And if you don't play the card, it doesn't level up. So it stays level 1 if you don't play it. So you could potentially do that in the real world, but it works out way better.
There's a lot of keeping track of things then,
Yeah. So
it opens up some more possibilities. That's interesting.
In fact, I tend to find that I like on my tablets or the phone games that mimic tabletop games more than like the more clicky marathon arcadey type style games. I just like the board game feel more.
That's interesting because this will be part of next week's podcast, but Codex can be played asynchronously. So I'm imagining there will be some way to play it online, if it doesn't already exist.
Yeah,
right?
well, there are some ways, but not for the full set. There's a lot of play-by-post and play-by-forum there.
Okay.
So, and for those who don't know, an asynchronous game, and as we're speaking of it this way, is when I take my turn, I can do everything. And then when it's the other person's turn, I don't have to do anything. So it doesn't require interaction while a turn's being played. The interaction's set up just before the other person takes their turn.
The classic example is always like playing chess by mail.
Yeah. Yep. Chess by mail is an asynchronous game.
Yeah.
So a lot of the old school games where you go, I go are asynchronous.
Right.
Magic is not asynchronous because there's all kinds of things you can do on your turn to interrupt the other person.
Such.
All right, Kickstarter games and games I now own. Let's see, just a couple ones this week. So if you're watching the video, I have a stack of games that we're not going to talk about, that are not on this list. New Salem. This is a social deduction game with hidden roles and trick collection, and they can see your face now.
I know.
I
did it on purpose.
But it's not like Who's the Werewolf social deduction. So the way it works is you're either a witch or you're a Puritan. And if you're a Puritan, you're trying to get more white cubes than black cubes in the town. Oh. And if you're a witch, you want more black cubes than white cubes. But you can do certain things, and you need white and black cubes. You need to spend them to do things. So just because you put something down that gave you black cubes doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. Oh. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're good either.
So is there a part of like outing who the witch might be in part of the game? Or?
Do they burn them at the stake?
They don't, but they put them on trial.
Do they drown them and see if they float?
I don't think they do.
Crush them with rocks?
All right, all of these things they probably do. So what happens is you put a trial card in front of people that you think are witches, and if you're right, then you get 2 white cubes at the end of the game. If you're wrong, you get 2 black cubes. Right. So while you're playing, you can accuse people of being witches, but at the end, everyone reveals, and then you do your final cube balance. If there's more black cubes than white cubes, the witch with the most victory points wins. If there's more white than black...
So they're not eliminated at any point?
No.
They're in it till the end of the game?
They're in it till the end. It actually plays, like, it's hidden role, but it plays more like Battlestar Galactica, where even though it's hidden, it's not like you're accusing people of lying to you. It's like, based on this, this, and this, I think you're bad. Right. You can logic it out. Okay. The other one I got was Space Junkyard, which looks like a fun little tile game that you're collecting junk from space to build a spaceship with. A cute little game. While I was in Indiana, I went to a game store in Fort Wayne, and they had a garage sale going on, and they had this game as still shrink wrapped, and it was $10, and I've heard things about it, so I'm like, I don't know, we'll take that, sure. So we'll try to get that to the table. Kickstarters, I haven't done a huge amount. Epic Digital Card Game, I kickstarted that. This is by the same group that did Star Realms, Hero Realms, and Epic Card Game. This is the digital version for that. So Epic Card Game's another one of those, here's all the cards you need and build your decks and can play. And this is the digital version of that. Nice. So hope to see that soon. And then I think I mentioned this before. There's a miniatures map. I wish I had his name, I should have written it down. But he does all these like space miniatures and space maps. So he has another space station out there. So if you're interested in like basically 5-foot gridded spaceships, this one's a space station. So it's like a mini space station. And he has a miniature that goes with it. So that's the Vanguard Station miniature and map. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
All right, on to our game of today. We played Ginger Dead House, which I just have to slow down to say.
Yeah, which is sitting on the table.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it is like a tower defense game. It really reminded me of Plants vs. Zombies.
Yeah.
But in card form, where you're playing against opponents on the table. And basically it's a last man standing kind of game. Yeah. But I was surprised by the amount of player interaction there was in the game.
There was a lot of like screw your neighbor sort of things where you could really...
Where Chris killed us.
Yeah, I did not realize it was essentially a take that game.
Yeah.
So the board is what?
Not too bad of a take that game.
No. Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, me too. And I'm kind of a bit of a bad sport sometimes as well.
It's one of those things where you're angry when it happens, but then you're like, but I can get you back on my next turn.
And there was a moment where you guys almost killed me. Not quite early on the game, but I hadn't. Because I was like, had these screw you cards in my hand for a while, and I was like, I don't want to be the first one to start screwing people over. Like that's just harsh. But then as soon they just piled all on me on one go, and I was so annoyed. I was like, I've been holding on to these being nice for ages. How could you? But
it was pretty easy. I played the card, and then I went over to your board and took the cards I wanted.
You did.
So the way this looks is it's a board that's 5x4 or 4x5, 4 columns, 5 rows. And you're playing cards that are your defense cards, and you're drawing monsters that are coming and trying to get to the other end of your board. So it's kind of like tower defense-y. And if a monster ever goes off your board, you're eliminated. So it's an elimination game, and you're trying to like steal people's defenses and put monsters on their board and get them in situations where they're going to die.
While you're still defending your board.
Yep.
And
So we thought it was going to go on for a while. It probably was just over an hour. But then I just drew a really bad card and like, oh, I'm out. And then it was Kitty's turn, and it's like, I set you up to
You
be
set me up
out.
to die. Although I would have died anyway. I drew a card that put a lot of monsters on my board, and then I drew another card that put a lot of monsters on my board, and in between that I didn't draw any defense cards.
It's amazing how quickly it changes. You know, just a couple of turns and your board
really
looks completely different.
Yeah.
You know, I was almost dead at one point, and then suddenly I had no monsters on my board.
And at the same time, it like really flip-flopped for us because
Yeah.
I had like a perfect defense board, and then Chris took all my defense cards and then died anyway.
Yeah.
It was good. I would play it again.
Definitely.
I have two issues with the game. One is the card text sometimes triggers when it comes into play. Sometimes it triggers on your turn. You can use it. I wish there was some kind of icon to say, "Oh, this is something you can use on your turn," versus this is something that you need to pay attention to.
Right.
And then every card has a special ability of some sort. So when you first play it, you're basically reading everything. So that's why it started out a little slow, but it speeds up really quick. After like 2 turns, it's like we got used to the language that we're looking for, and it became pretty
And
straightforward.
we were you know, able to read our cards on our turn. When someone else was having a turn. So, you know, we only had 5 cards in our hand at any one time. It wasn't too bad.
And the theme is cute. It's kind of like this dark candy land. What is it? Molten chocolate was if you landed in the molten chocolate.
There was a card that just said YOLO.
YOLO. The gummy cannon and the gummy general and the gummy bears that go with the gummy general.
And sort of like a fantasy, you know, it's like Little Red Riding Hood. Things like
Yeah, it's Hansel and Gretel. It's gingerbread houses and things like that. So, all right, should we do
I
it?
was a little surprised that there were no actual gingerbread men.
I think there was, the YOLO card had a gingerbread man on it.
But there were no gingerbread men on the
as
board.
a monster.
Yeah, we didn't
As
actually
a
get through all the
monster,
cards.
you didn't have...
Defense.
I didn't see them as defenders either. I would expect them to be defenders. And I didn't...
Maybe we hadn't got through, because we hadn't got through all the cards. Maybe.
I don't know.
I got through like half of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right, contest time.
Oh, yeah.
Ready?
All right. You sound terrible. Stop doing that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the winner is Zoya.
Oh, wait. We mentioned Zoya earlier, didn't we?
No, Zoya is one of our oldest fans.
Oh.
Yeah, she emailed us like one of the very, very first, and she emailed entered the contest just a couple days ago.
Right.
So Zoya, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Amazing.
Yep, I have your last name somewhere, I promise. I will be emailing Zoya. Let's see. The box includes, let's see if I can see this, Patchwork, Codex, the starter set, 1 deck dungeon, and I can't believe it, I did the same thing last week too, a 4-player game that will play 2 players that I have and is now yours.
Hasn't quite decided yet which one?
No, it's in the box. It's in the box.
He
It's just over there. I just can't
never
remember the name.
remembers the name.
I packed the box like 2 weeks ago and then I forgot what I put in it. So and there's some room in there,
Oh,
so
surprise.
I might throw some other stuff in there as well.
I'm really glad that people can see my eye rolls.
Those are great games, though. That's
No,
awesome.
Yeah, great games.
Yeah, they
Very
should be
exciting.
fun. Zoya, I will be emailing you for your address and we'll go from there. Remember, if you are a Patreon, you automatically get entered into all our contests with bonus entries. That's at all levels, and yeah, so if you're interested. Our next contest will be starting in like 2 weeks, I believe. And that one, again, I can't officially announce it until we have everything locked
Until he tells me
down.
and Josh about it, apparently.
Yeah.
But that one might be sponsored by someone.
Ooh.
So it might be something new and fun. We'll see what happens there. But congratulations, Zoya. And that is on to the...
Yeah.
On topic.
Here
Let's do
goes.
it. In this episode, we're talking about couples games, 2-player games that we think are fun for couples and have the lowest chance of breaking up the relationship. I think some of these might have a bit of a higher chance than we think. We also have a lot of suggestions from our listeners, so between all of us, we hope to provide you with something fun for Valentine's Day and beyond.
Yeah. So I put some couples games on the tables because that reminds us to talk about them. Let's talk first about some that are good, easy, fun things that people should play.
Yeah.
Josh, I know you've talked about this game pretty much every
but
episode for the past 3 or 4 episodes.
Well, I don't think it's quite that often, but yeah, it's a few times.
It's War. What is that called? The Fog of.
No, not although.
No, not a good couples game.
That could work. Honestly, Warlight's on there. But no, the one I was going to talk about is Letter Tycoon, which I got for Gloria, my partner. She loves word games. So this is a word game. You're picking up letter cards and you're making words and you're scoring points based on how large the word is. There's not like a board in front of you. There's different points based on how large the word is. But also you collect patterns of letters. So if I collect the letter E, which is really expensive, and other people start playing words with E's in them, then I'm going to get points for the end of the game too. So you start to accumulate, that's the tycoon part of Letter Tycoon, is accumulating all these letter patterns so that you can make passive income when other people are playing words. And then that affects how they play. They're like, oh goodness, he's got the E and the O, I'm not going to use those vowels in my next word. But it's a really good back and forth. It's very gateway gamey, very easy.
Do I have to know all the 2-letter words?
No, in fact, this game doesn't have any 2-letter words in it. You have to make a word 3 or higher. So
You just gave me the greatest game title ever. 4-letter words.
Yeah, we need to make that game.
I think it's just a black and white card game, but 4-letter words.
Yeah. I think we could do that.
There's
Make
something
some money
there.
here. Yeah. But yeah, so. For the people that are amazing at Scrabble, they'll still have a little bit of an edge, but you don't have to know those 2-letter words, which is amazing. Because Gloria is amazing at Scrabble, plays it all the time. I don't, so I was really, really happy that part of it wasn't in there.
This is the last time I'm going to say this. Bring it over.
I will.
And you can bring Gloria over too.
Yes, she will love to play this game. She really will. So yeah, I'll bring it. I'll bring it very soon.
What about you, Kitty?
All right. Holmes, Sherlock, and Mycroft. That was, I actually got Spencer to play with me. And yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like a Go Fish-esque kind of thing where you're collecting clues. So one of you is Sherlock Holmes, one of you is Mycroft Holmes, and you are one of you is trying to prove someone's innocence, one of them is trying to prove his guilt. And you are each collecting clues, and it's kind of, whoever has the most of that number gets that number minus however many the other person has. So if it's a 9 scoring clue, if you have 6 of them and your opponent has 3, you are going to score 6 because it's 9 minus 3.
So you have a stack of cards that have the numbers 4 through 9? I think it's 4 through 9.
I think there's a 2.
Maybe it's 2 through 9. So there's 2 2s, 3 3s, 4 4s, 5 5s. And when you play these cards, you want to make sure you have the most 5s, and they don't. Because every time you have the most of a number, you score for that number.
Minus whatever they have.
Minus whatever.
So you want to really lock down, and you get a bonus for having all of them.
Yep.
So if you get all 9 9s, which is very unlikely, you're going to score, I think it's 11 points then.
Yep.
But as soon as your opponent gets one of them, your score starts slipping.
Yep.
And there's other ways you can score points, and basically you have little magnifying glasses that you spend to get the clues, and then you have different ways of getting those where you place your markers on the board.
Yeah, because essentially it's a worker placement where you start out with 3 basic actions, and then every turn you reveal another action. So the actions you can use are different from game to game. So how many little magnifying glasses you get, or what cards you can draw, or what you can do with those cards will change as you go through.
I really like this game. It was just so easy to pick up, like very intuitive.
Easy to pick up,
And
well, you played it with Sydney, right?
Yeah, and it was just really intuitive, and I don't know, there was enough strategy there that I was really interested. It was cool.
Yep.
And there are ways to affect the other players. You can hide cards in your hand, and you can take their cards, or you can say like, oh, you don't have that one anymore. But very limited screw you powers, which I like in a couples game, because when you're like, and nope, you didn't.
And
like,
it's really easy to set up.
Yeah.
It plays in under a half hour. And it's like the quintessential, just like, well, I don't want to call it a filler game because it's actually a pretty deep game, but it has just enough luck in there as well to make it so that it's a balanced game, regardless of who's like more strategic or tactical. You can still draw good cards and feel like you're gonna win.
Yeah.
Did you have a close game with Sydney? Like, how were your scores? Or
The thing is, we didn't finish the game because there was something. It was just before we had the interview.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was turning out very close.
Yeah,
in the first
because
half.
I think me and Spencer just came down to the tiebreaker. Like, it is a very even field game.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, like one player just killed it.
Yeah.
At least when we played.
Which is great in a game like a couples game, because you don't want a game where one person just gets so much better than the other person. It's not fun to play anymore.
It's not fun anymore, yeah.
So I'm going to talk about Hive, which is not on the table, but it's over here. It's a tile laying game, so you have little hexes with little bugs on it. And so you start out with the queen, you're trying to protect your queen, and you can play these pieces, and each bug moves in its own specific way. So some can go along the outside, some can skip over, and it's an abstract game, so since there's no board, you can just play it anywhere. I actually got this for Sydney on for the first birthday when we were dating. I got it for her for her birthday. We went to a nice fancy fish place and played Hive at a fancy restaurant. But it's really cool. The tiles are nice and heavy and tactile. It is, however, the opposite of Holmes as far as strategy is concerned, because it's a very, very chess-like game. And I say chess-like because it's one of those things where you can study the strategy. There's opening moves that you can use. If you're both playing it casually, then that's fine. But if one person's really getting into it and the other one isn't, it might not be the game for you.
Kind of steamroller situation.
Yeah. But it's so portable because you put it in a little cloth bag and you can put it in your pocket and you play it anywhere. There's black and white tiles, so you just split up those tiles and you're good to go. And the reason I got this for her is because she really likes ladybugs, and one of the expansions is a ladybug expansion. So I'm like, I can't get you the little ladybug expansion without getting you the game, so we got to do both. So that's one I like. We're going to go back to Josh in a second, but first we're going to go to some of our feedback. Name a couple of these. So Henry Jespin, Seven Wonders Duel, which if you guys don't talk about, I will in a second because it's actually sitting on our table. Joran likes Milborn, which...
Shout out to Spencer.
Shout out to Spencer. Nate likes Race for the Galaxy, which technically isn't a two-player game, but he likes playing it as a two-player game. This is one where the iconography can be overwhelming. So if you're casual gamers, I wouldn't necessarily say jump in Race for the Galaxy. But if you're not, if you really are hardcore board gamers, Race for the Galaxy apparently plays best at 2. So I've heard that from a number of people.
Even though it was never designed to be played that way?
No. It plays, I think, 2 to 4 with expansions. You can play up to 6. The one thing about Race for the Galaxy is it tends to be that you're building your own engine, so you're not really screwing over the other players. So you're just kind of... It's a race to get the best engine so you can win the game. So I can see that being good because if you're building up your own thing and someone isn't screwing it over, then there's not going to be that tension. And Roll for the Galaxy I think is an easier one to enter. That one I picked up in no time flat, and that's kind of fun. It's the same thing.
Two-player as well.
It can also be 2-player. Sydney and I were playing it 2-player, and we played it multiple times. We really enjoyed it. Again, it's your own little solo thing, so you're not like competing directly against each other, but you're still having fun trying to build up your engine. So, Josh, back to you.
I really like Scattergories. Have you guys played Scattergories before?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I play it with the kids at the park all the time.
Right, yeah, no.
Is this a couples game?
Honestly, it can totally.
Really?
Yeah, 2-player game. Yeah, because I mean, we played it in the car on the online mobile version.
Okay.
So you know which game I'm talking about now. But you can play it as a board game. You know, you have this big I don't know how many sided dice it is, but like I don't know, probably 20-sided dice with letters of the alphabet on there. You roll it, and then once you get that, you've got a list of things that you have to make a word beginning with that letter. So if you roll a P, all of these things on the list, a boy's name, a chocolate bar, a car brand, all have to begin with P. So if you get the same word as someone else, then neither of you get points for it. And then I think in the board game version, not the mobile version, you got double points for alliteration. So if it was like Kit Kat, I think if it was like 2 words beginning with the same letter, then you get 2 points. But yeah, it's just, again, so intuitive, so easy to pick up, easy to make words, and it's sort of family fun friendly game. But yeah, 2 players on.
Yeah. We're all looking at Kitty.
Oh, alright. I'm
you can
going
talk
to go.
Arkham Horror if you want.
I'm going to. I'm going to talk the anti-couples game. It is a 2-player
I
game
want to see this.
that. So I did give Chris the challenge when I said, all right, pick 2-player games. Give me one that's going to work well and one that won't. And boy, did he. Arkham Horror, especially with Spencer as part of the couple, he hates, like, such complex rules. And if you open the box and you open one of the rule books, it probably says, oh, check the other rule book first. Like, don't start here. There's 3 different rule books that come with this game.
There's a blurb here. It says, the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown. But I think
unknown is the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to go online and do research to figure out how to play this.
Wow.
After, like, reading the same sentence 3 times and going like, oh, forget it. Like, I had to go to watch it played, and shout out to them. They did the best job they could of trying to get me to like this game. And I think that I would enjoy the solo play more than I would enjoy the couple play because...
So, I'm going to say it is a great 2-player game if both people are into A, the genre of Arkham Horror, or B, don't have a problem with, essentially, I hate to say that, but fiddly card games. Now, this isn't as fiddly as most card games. You have your own character cards. You have different tokens that equate for sanity and power and whatnot. Then you have a deck that you're moving through, and the reason why it's don't read this first, read that, whatever, is because there's a campaign in the box. It's meant to be played through as a story reveals. Even like, don't read the next thing until you've played this and played it through. Read this at the end of the game. It has multiple campaign decks that you can pick up, and it's a fantasy fight living card game. So they send out packs like this, which is boom, here's a new either campaign or side quest or something you can go on. There's the characters actually grow over time, so they will get more powerful as you keep playing, I think, right? I think there's a campaign mechanic to it. So, but yes, not for the faint of heart. It goes into the Race for the Galaxy category of
both serious gamers to I think really like, and you have to really, I don't know, because I think one person has to kind of be the person who makes more decisions.
Because you have the leader,
lead investigator.
Yeah. Oh, so wait, is it co-op?
It is co-op.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which you would think, oh, it's a 2-player co-op. That would be great for couples.
Yeah.
You really both have to be like, I want to do this.
Right.
If one person is trying to drag the other person in,
Like you
do not recommend.
Yeah. Well, I'll segue into One Deck Dungeon, which is also a 1 or 2-player co-op, which is the same thing Arkham Horror is. Now, technically, Arkham Horror can play up to 3 and 4 if you have 2 copies of the base set, but it out of the box is 1 to 2. So One Deck Dungeon, which is in the box that Zoya just won. I don't know if I said that. I think I said that.
I think you did.
It can play 1 player, and you pick your hero. It's your typical fantasy hero, and you can flip the cards through, and there's hearts and shields and swords and stuff. Your typical fantasy stuff. You're rolling, I believe you're rolling dice, and you're attempting to get through this dungeon, get to the end of the dungeon. You're getting loot, killing monsters. It also plays 2 players, so each hero has a 1-player side and a 2-player side. The 2-player side, you're not quite as strong, but then there's you kind of going back and forth and working together to get through the dungeon. So I really like this because it fits in this. It's just it's a small box game, tiny, and if you're by yourself, you just want to get that fantasy, itch out of the way. You can play through it. If you like a simple, quick co-op game, you both sit down, sit side by side, and you're just kind of going through these dungeon cards, and the art is really cute on it and stuff. So I like that one.
Nice.
Andrew Fish, he's like the star of the show this week. He mentions Patchwork as well, which we haven't talked about yet, but Josh will in just a second. Actually, in fact, Nate mentioned Patchwork too, so I'm kind of combining those two. But Andrew also says Boss Monster is a great game, which I agree. But in his words, the game's art style is like that of a 16-bit era video game. The player has a boss character, each with their own unique powers, and they build a dungeon that entices heroes and hopefully defeats the incoming heroes. So Boss Monster is, I'm drafting cards to create my dungeon. I can have trap rooms, monster rooms, whatever. And then heroes come out, and the heroes aren't for anything, but the heroes are going to go to the dungeon that most attracts them, has the most treasure in it. And they're going to try to get through your dungeon. So as other players, you're trying to get heroes to go to other people's dungeons, but you want to get all your victory points and money. And the art style is great. There's now a second Boss Monster 2, which is fully compatible.
I remember seeing that on your shelf and being like, I really want to play that.
The
game
Lunchbox
just for
one.
the art.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know why we haven't. I think it's just because I have it sitting on the top of the shelf, so I don't see it. But yeah, we should definitely play it. Highly recommend it. Andrew Hoffman loves Makikara and Seven Wonders Duel, which I'll talk about in the next go around. And something that I never heard of, Waggle Dance. Now that's Waggle Dance. He says he had to order it from Canada. At the time he wrote, he hadn't played it yet, but he said it looked interesting. So I'm like throwing that out there.
Wow, cool name.
So Josh, what was your impressions of Patchwork?
I really liked it. Yeah, again, very simple to pick up, very easy, not many rules. You're essentially working your way around a board, moving into the middle, and you've got a separate board in front of you where you place the patchwork pieces, and you're trying to put them together much like Tetris, where they all tessellate to make a 7x7 grid, and you get some extra points for doing that. But it's it's unique. You had some pieces all around the main board that your pieces are moving through. So you have these kind of different parts to it. So you've got the main board that you're moving on. You've got a ring of pieces running outside that you've got like a token that's moving around, and then you've got your own board that you're putting all the patchwork pieces on. And despite all of those things, it was simple and it was easy to get. So yeah, it can be played very quickly and has a nice enough strategy to be interesting.
Yeah, well the funny thing is it's quilts, but so the theme, once you play it, you're like, it's perfect. It works absolutely perfect. But you could consider this Tetris the board game too.
Yeah.
So your player board is a 10x10 board in front of you. The patchwork pieces, the quilt pieces, are all of various shapes. Now they're more complicated than Tetris shapes, but they cost a certain amount of buttons and they take a certain amount of time to build. So this board in the middle that Josh was talking about, this is your time track, and you play through until all the time runs out. As you're going through, you'll get button income. When you cross certain button squares, all of the buttons on your quilt will give you buttons that you can spend later. And then there's like little 1x1 pieces that you can get by passing them, because that's the only way to fill in 1x1s. Very fast. I think it's probably not more than 25-30 minutes. It takes up a little bit more space just because you're putting out all these pieces, and they're in a random order, so it's actually not hard to just kind of throw them on the table and put them in a loose circle. But I wouldn't play it at a restaurant or something, but a simple coffee table or something would be completely fine. Yeah, it's a really cool little game. You guys kind of broke it because you got to a point where we can't buy any of the pieces that we can fit on our board, and if you can't buy any pieces, you just have to advance your token. So they just ended up hopping for the last few turns, getting their income, and then adding it together. Yeah. But
it was still really good. I still really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good fun. And I think you could play it. You could play it at a bar. You can play it at a restaurant, but I would take it to a bar and play it.
Yeah, you could, if you had enough space on the table, you could certainly. Yeah. You got one for us?
No.
All right.
I was too busy. I'm really jealous because I didn't get to play Patchwork. I'm gonna get my own copy.
Oh, you should though.
I know.
Yeah.
I really
Actually,
should.
to bring it upstairs, you can play with Spencer. It's really easy to learn.
Yeah, he'll like that one.
Yeah, and there's almost no rules.
You're making a face though. You seem unsure.
He's thinking about it. I will talk about Seven Wonders Duel. So Seven Wonders is a great game. Like, people love this game. Yeah. It is a drafting game where you have to play at least 3 players. Some people are saying once you get past 5 players, you're not interacting with the other players on the other side of the table. You're normally only interacting with the people on your immediate left and right. Okay. But that aside, like, Seven Wonders is really cool. Seven Wonders Duel takes that and puts it into a 2-player format. And the drafting is interesting because you make these kind of overlaying patterns. So you can see the cards that are coming up, but you can only pick certain ones because as long as a card overlays it, you can't pick the one underneath it. It's kind of like Spider Solitaire, if anyone's ever played that, where everything is layered on. Right. So that's how you draft your different wonders and such. War is you can get military, and if you ever get military all the way to one side of the board, you win. There's like 3 different ways you can win in the base game, and then there's 2 expansions, I believe, that come along with it that add different ways to win on top of that. But this one, I think, is hands down, if you like Seven Wonders and you want a 2-player version of it, Seven Wonders Duel is great. Even if you don't like Seven Wonders Duel is a different game with just the same theme. And it still plays very fun. I don't think either of you guys have played it.
No, and I heard about this game like about a year ago when I was first getting into board games, and I was like asking everyone for recommendations. This one girl was like, Seven Wonders is like my favorite game right now, so this is cool. So I need to get on it at some point.
But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with this game, and most of the board game community will agree. It's not Sydney's favorite game, but it's not really. She doesn't really like Seven Wonders either, so that's it's like just not her thing.
Right.
But she still says, it's not my favorite, but I play it again.
Yeah.
Which is still high praise for something that's like if it's not,
Yeah.
So let's see, Jerry Hung, I believe. He listed, Josh, I'm going to make you read these.
Okay. Grand Austria Hotel, Legacy Testament of Duke de Cressy. Yeah?
Yeah, sounds good.
Go with it.
Yeah. What? So wait, hang on. These are two separate
Comma,
games.
this is another game,
And there's more. Battle Lines, Voyages of Marco Polo, Viceroy, Fields of Arles, and Cavernia.
Yeah. So I have not heard of any of these games.
Wow.
Caverna I have, but I'm not sure because it was Fields of Area / Caverna, and I don't know if maybe these are foreign language editions or something, or just games I'm not familiar with. Right. I will say this, I'm going to go out and seek out these games now. But I want to mention them for our listeners, so if you haven't listened to them.
I love how you just you're not even going to do any research on them. You're going to just seek them out. Like if it was me, I'd be like researching whether they were any good or not, and then maybe buy them. You're just like, I'm just going to buy all these games.
So for the moment, I can be okay listening, and if someone recommends something, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll pick that up.
Okay.
Kickstart this, buy this game with my friends. Like, all right, fine, I'll do that.
We're going to have to
for now
hold an intervention
I
at
was
some
going to
point.
say.
At some point, that will stop. It's sort of why I'm doing all the fundraising stuff for the podcast, because I'm like looking back and like, I really have spent a lot more money on games since the podcast started.
Yeah.
I bet.
So, but I'm also, that's why I'm working on trying to get more game companies to know about us so they can potentially send us stuff. And if the YouTube thing goes well, which I'm hoping it will, we will actually start doing kind of unboxing and first impressions. So the way I'm thinking of this is, like I was looking at New Salem earlier, kind of opening it up and looking at all the pieces, reading the rules, and this is what this is and this is what that is, and just kind of like a first impressions of it. There's a lot of unboxing videos out there, and they're okay, but I'm trying to when I look at a game for the first time, I look at it until I get the gist of it, and then now I'll package all up. So it's like, maybe I'll just do videos of that. It's like, yeah, I get this. You probably understand it too, so close it all back. If you want to know more, watch someone else. Not really. We'll probably do some actual plays and stuff like that. We have lots of plans, so
we do.
See how that goes. Nathan Litton likes Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and Mystery Express. This is not co-op, but it's sort of like a whodunit. It plays definitely more than 2 players. But he also mentions that he and his significant other like co-op games, such as Mice and Mystics, which I really need to play this game. I've only heard good things about it. Like everyone who's played it loves it. It's like you're playing mice in fantasy setting, and it's a cooperative game.
Little red ball esque.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Zoya, our winner, she likes Magic the Gathering. And they play the Commander format. They also play Splendor.
You've mentioned that a few times. That's going to be really good.
Now, Sydney and I will play Splendor on the iPad. Anytime we're traveling, we'll just play Splendor over and over and over.
Oh, I didn't know there was an I just realised I have played Splendor with you, with Gloria. I need to get the iPad version or whatever,
It makes a really good like travel game just because of the way that works.
Oh, great.
So, let's see, and they also play Ascension on their phone, so back to card games on the phone.
Right.
And she says she accidentally ordered Lost Cities due to a one-click mishap on Amazon.
Wow.
So, it's not bad. I think it's a good game. Hopefully you're not disappointed by it.
Happy accident.
Yeah, happy accident. You guys have any other games you want to talk about?
Well, I was gonna bring it up when it came up in our next message. But,
no, I was going to say before I read the last one. Actually, why don't you go ahead and read the last one?
Alright, so I'll read the last one. Alright, from Sam, his boss. We'll say. Words with Friends and Scrabble. We already talked about Letter Tycoon, word games. Always fun if that's your thing, but Scrabble can be very kind of metagame manipulated, where if you know those 2-letter words, you're building towards those triple letter play. What is it? Chi spelled XI on.
Yeah, it can get a bit funny. I mean, I refuse to play with Gloria because she's so good. She's built up this knowledge of those 2-letter words, and I just get destroyed every time. So I'm like, this isn't fun for me. I like winning sometimes.
Yep.
But if you play kind of more genuinely, I think. If you're trying to make those like longer words, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
I guess
it's the knowledge
the
of the
diehard
words.
Scrabblers are gonna call me out on that one. So,
Yeah.
But those are fun. He goes on. Also, 6 like Connect 4 without a board.
Yep.
We'll have to look into that. That sounds like fun.
That sounds cool.
Me and Chris are notorious for playing Connect 4 at bars.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, a lot of times it's the only decent game at the bar that still has enough pieces to play. So
that's true.
His wife is more of a casual gamer, so I was looking for games to bridge the gap, like Guillotine, True Row,
yep.
or Dream Home are good ones. And recently, Pandemic and my personal favorite, Carcassonne, which is a favorite of mine.
Don't read the rest of it.
I know.
So Sam gave us some insider information on gifts and such, but I'm not going to announce it. But Sam let us know how it goes, and we'll announce it then. Because you never know. You know, she could be listening here too.
Yeah. But Carcassonne is one of my. It's a little bit tougher 2-player, I think, than multiplayer. I think it kind of ups the screw you value of it.
Yeah, well, especially since you're not having multiple people that are like, it's every move's intentionally against you if it's not for me.
Yeah. I think some of the expansions can kind of minimize that or maximize it based on what you're doing there. So, but I think that's a fun one. I always like puzzly games, so I'm really excited to play Patchwork.
Well, we'll play Patchwork within the next day or so.
Okay.
So, all right, honorable mentions. The Duke is a 2-player game. We've talked about that before. Kind of again, I hate to use the word chess, but Duke is probably more like chess than any other game we've talked about.
One-on-one strategy based.
One strategy based, but each piece moves in very specific ways. Except for once you move it, you flip it over, and then it has a different movement pattern on the other side. Yeah. So it's as if the pawn moved differently every other turn.
I like those types of games, and I played it with you. I thought it was great. Yeah. If you're into those deep strategy games, then that and also Homeworlds actually, which we've mentioned a bunch of times.
Actually, we can throw the whole Pyramid
Arcade
box.
Yeah.
If you're just looking for, I want to spend one thing and have just a ton of different games I can play, from couples to party games, the Pyramid Arcade
is so true. It's even got dexterity games in there. It goes from really casual to really hardcore.
Really strategic. Yeah. And most of those games play great with 2 players.
Yeah.
Oh, Pyramid Arcade is brilliant. Yeah.
So, let's see. Blue Moon, it's Blue Moon Legacy now, so it's like a box set. This is kind of War, but if War had special abilities on some of the cards. So I'm playing a card, you play a card, whoever plays the highest wins. And what you're trying to do is attract dragons over to your side. So once you have 3 dragons on your side, you win. It's a very...
Egyptian Rat Screw?
Maybe...
Do you play that one?
No. I'm just going to smile and nod.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's like War, but like the face cards, like when you put down a king, they've got like 3 or 4 chances. 3 chances with a king, 2 with a queen, 1 with a jack, 4 with an ace to come up with another face card.
It's not quite as much like that. Like the cards have much more specific abilities to them, but
like War Plus.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still, there's strategy there, so you can get better at the game, but there's still enough luck there where, again, it's not one of those things that one person's going to get so much better than the other person.
Yeah.
So you can still kind of balance that out.
So hang on, just this is really naive. Maybe it's an American game. War, is that a classic card game with a pack of cards?
Pack of cards,
Right,
yeah.
that's what it sounded like.
So,
numbers.
yeah.
I've never played it. I've
We
never heard
we
of it.
Toss 'em
split the
down.
decks.
Yeah.
You flip up your card, I flip up my card. Whoever has the highest card wins.
Oh, and then that's the game over.
That's
and
it.
you do it again.
That's the game.
Oh,
There's
Um,
absolutely zero skill to war.
yeah.
If you have the same number come up, then you have a war, and you put 2 face-down cards and 1 face-up card, and then those values win.
Uh-huh.
And then you take all of those.
all the cards, getting those hidden cards.
Yeah. But where I said
No
that Blue Moon
strategy.
has strategy to it,
Yeah.
War has zero
No
strategy.
Sheer luck, yeah.
You
None.
absolutely know who's going to win based on the cards you have.
Right.
Now you can't look at your cards and know who's going to win.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah.
mathematically play out.
And it goes on forever.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's like a quintessential like summer camp game to me.
Yeah.
Like
It's that thing where it's like you have a 6-year-old and 7-year-old and you're like teach them how to play War and then they'll just be busy for a couple hours.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
This is probably the reason this game was invented.
Pretty much.
How can we maximise the amount of time that it will take up? Yes. This is how
We
it
should-
also end in like I don't think I've ever finished a game of War. I think it's always ended with one person being like, "You're gonna win," and storming out of the room.
Remember her family she's
I
grown
know.
up with though.
Yeah. Pretty all competitive, right?
Yeah.
And the last one I'm going to mention is Gruff, which I actually picked up from the designer at one of these small game conventions. This one is a game of battling billy goats. So
There
you're
we go, Billy Goat
you're a
Gruff, I get
shepherd.
it.
Yeah, you're a shepherd,
Yeah.
and you find these goats, and these goats like suddenly fight each other. And you realize, whoa, we've been like just shepherding these goats. We can use them for war. So then
Yeah.
these shepherds are different ways of mutating these goats to fight other shepherds. So you pick a shepherd, and then you pick cards that go with that shepherd that you want to just play with, and then you fight. It's just a 2-player.
I remember
fight.
seeing the art of this now, and seeing the box. It
Yeah.
looks really cool, like all these mutant goats with like green goo like coming out their
Yeah,
mouths and stuff.
and it's so tongue in cheek that it's like fun no matter what,
Right.
and it's very swingy. Like you can be like, I'm gonna lose, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 I win.
Wow.
You know, so you can't really get upset with it. You just like,
Yeah.
I want to play that again because it was funny.
Yeah.
You know, so
Cool.
yeah, I think that's we're at time, so that's
Yeah.
a show. If we missed anything you think that we should talk about, or couples games that we didn't mention that you're like, how could you possibly forget this?
Mhm.
Now we did leave out some of the classics like checkers, chess, backgammon. All of those classic 2-player games are
Fellow.
Othello, Go. Yes, they're great. We're trying to bring a little bit more modern. But if
Yeah.
there's a modern game that you think you really should have covered this, remember for this, it's Valentine's Day couple games, things that won't make you hate each other.
Yeah.
So that's the goal of this.
Mhm.
And not next episode, but the following episode, to follow up for those who don't have a significant other on Valentine's Day, we're gonna do solo games. So
Very cool.
I don't normally announce 2 episodes in advance, although I have the last 2 times, but still.
For all you lonely hearts out there,
Yes.
we'll have 1-player games. Or for all of those who you've made your significant other so mad that now you're
They're never
solo
gonna play
gaming.
with
I know
you
they'll
again.
never play with you again. You went for Arkham Horror. Although there are people out there.
It will
don't
work
get me
for a
wrong.
lot of
It will
people, I
work for a
promise.
lot of people. Just not. If you're the gamer and your significant other is not, don't do it.
Yeah, maybe not the right one. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. And remember, we love your feedback. So consider leaving us an iTunes review or email us with your comments or questions at tabletopgametalk@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Facebook @/tabletopgametalk podcast or on Twitter @tabletopgametlk. You can also reach us directly @GameMasterChris, @JoshIsBlonde, and @KittenL. And if you like what you hear, help us spread the word by liking or sharing our posts. Finally, a huge thank you to our patrons, Emil Giljam, Trevor Olson, and Rudy Lou. If you'd like to support us via Patreon, you can find more at tabletopgametalk.com/Patreon. All Patreons are auto-entered into our contest with bonus entries, so check it out. Until next week, when we talk about Codex. Keep playing games and having fun.
Good night.